That looked like a hostage video, didn't it?
It looked like
Jason Kidd was sitting there. I guess Nico was still on the scene.
Yeah.
And Kidd sitting there next to him, and they're in the aftermath, like the day after they traded Luka Doncic, and he literally looked like they're the old reveal that we talk about with Hank Aaron, talking about the Barry Bonds breaking his record, where they pull back and there are two guys with ski masks on and machine guns pointed at his head. As he says, "Well, yeah, I also saw this as a good move."
He's making no facial expressions.
Take a guy out of the lineup who's averaging 40 points a game.
Just went to the
and
finals.
throws in the other two stats for a triple-double as a matter of routine, even though he doesn't look like his vertical leap is more than a half inch. He's still grabbing 12 rebounds a game. How the hell is he doing that? He dishes off 12 assists and doesn't miss in the clutch. Sure, we're getting rid of that guy.
He's like, we just play with the guys we have. He looks scared.
That was one of the all-time phony press conferences. You know how we love that. But, I mean, he looked stunned. He looked like he was on massive amounts of sedatives to sit down there and not be enraged the entire time.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Ekholm will swing it across to Bouchard into the neutral zone. Poked away. Here's Reinhart heading in. Gets around Ekholm in front of shot. He scores! Sam Reinhart as he was being pulled down. He beats Skinner top shelf. And the Panthers strike first here in Game 6. Up the right side, Ed to Luostarina to the circle. Luostarina hands it back. High slot. Kachuk shot. He scores! Matthew Kachuk let it rip from the high slot. And the Panthers have a 2-0 lead. Verhaeghe at the half wall. Turnaround shot off the chest protector of Skinner. The rebound. Barkov in front. It bounces and they score. It went off Reinhart. And the Panthers take a 3-0 lead. Verhaeghe gives to Reinhart. And the puck poked away. Now Barkov to Verhaeghe. Now Barkov right side. Reinhart to the open net. He scores! It's a hat trick here in Game 6 for Sam Reinhart. He cashes in on the empty net. 4-0 Panthers. Barkov to the corner for Reinhart. Tapped on Ekblad to Verhaeghe. Now to Reinhart again. To the empty net. Does it have the distance? It does! 4 for Sam Reinhart. He scores to make it 5-0 Panthers. Down to the final 5 seconds. Rats rain down. Lord Stanley staying in South Florida. Last year was greatness. This time it's historic. The Florida Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. The Panthers have gone back-to-back in 24 and 25.
Glorious, beautiful, remarkable, and undeniable. The Panthers at the top of the hockey mountain.
Sounds sweet, doesn't it? Panthers back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. All of your anxiety, Lubie, all of your trepidations, all of your concerns, I guess could be symbolized by the fact that you had Knobloch pull his goalie with 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. Period. Of the game that the Panthers dominated. Sometimes you just have to believe what you're seeing.
Yep.
And realize as abstract, as obtuse, as bizarre as it is to try to analyze what's going on the ice in a hockey game, it seemed to be clearly established that the Panthers were a better team than the Edmonton Oilers. How about this? 6 games in the Stanley Cup Finals, and Connor McDavid, no goals. 0.
He had 1 goal.
Did he get one at the end there? Yeah.
Oh, so he had a Fakakta goal in Game 5 where he juked out Bob, who was standing next to a defender.
Oh, yeah. He had 1 goal. All right. I thought he had 0.0.
I did too.
There was my analysis right out the window. Why would you listen to me? No, I mean, he was a non-factor by any standard that you would be, any barometer you'd be looking at Connor McDavid's play. I mean, think about this. He was, and I didn't realize this. So there's so much that you don't know about hockey, even if you've been following it like I have for, I would say, the better part of 65 years. I probably started watching this stuff when I was 7 or 8 years old. So we're talking 67, 68 years I've been watching a game. I forgot that the MVP is not awarded for the final round. Yeah. It's not the championship. It's the overall Stanley Cup. So the Conn Smythe clearly was going to go to Sam Bennett if the Panthers won, because he had an enormous number of goals, was a huge factor. Reinhart, with 4 goals last night, might have put himself into contention, except he wasn't that big of a factor, or as big of a factor, all throughout the playoffs. So Sam Bennett, a deserving winner. We thought Marchand. I was hoping that you had a ticket on Brad Marchand, because I thought it was just the final round that was taken into consideration, but that is not the case. And regardless of that, this was far from any kind of individual effort, Lubie, and therein lies the beauty of what has transpired here. People, it's funny because the game isn't even over yet, and people are already speculating, hey, well, can they keep this team together? I don't know. You have the salary cap era where you now, if you're a Florida Panther fan, have a team that has become one of 3 teams since the salary cap was instituted in the National Hockey League, which makes it a little bit prohibitive. I mean, they have both Marchand, who they picked up late in the season, and Sam Bennett to try and negotiate with. They have a couple of weeks to negotiate with Sam Bennett and Marchand to prevent them from getting on the open market in free agency. You would imagine, I would think certainly Bennett would be highly coveted. You would think maybe Marchand, after winning the Stanley Cup here at 37 years old, would want to come back. But seems like something that could have waited for consideration, what the team is going to do next year and whether or not they can accomplish the Pat Riley. Dare I say this, or do I owe Pat Riley money if I say they can three-peat?
Oh, the 3-peat.
3-peat? How about that? I mean, Riley's struggling with his Miami Heat to reestablish their identity. And he's got a chance to cash in on the Panthers' outstanding performance over the last couple of years, where they actually are the one team that's in a position to 3-peat next year. After they joined the Pittsburgh Penguins, I think that was 2016 and 17.
Yes.
And the Tampa Bay Lightning, 2020 and 21. Now, think about that, too. I mean, the magnitude of that, where you have 2 teams from Florida that are among the 3 that have repeated with back-to-back Stanley Cup championships in the salary cap era. So unusual, because you would have never thought it was going to work down here. And there was a reason to believe that the team would probably be better off elsewhere. No, Lubie? What did you think? Because my son, I have to congratulate him. He was out in Las Vegas playing in a couple of the events in the World Series of Poker. He did manage to cash in one, which kind of evened out his efforts. But he did put, and I love this about him, because, I mean, you're thinking, how proud am I of my son that he texted me a ticket, 100 to win 145. He cashed for 245, giving up the goal and a half and taking the odds, taking the price on the Florida Panthers last night. So everybody was excited all around town. The Stanley Cup is already at the Elbow Room, Lubie. Can you believe that?
I know. I'm not missing it this year. I don't care.
Are you going?
Oh, I don't know about Elbow Room, because that place is a cesspool. But I don't even know how you get in when it's a party like this. The Glacier, it was like around the block. But they did a good job of making its way around South Florida. So I already put out the alert to Reno. I'm going to talk to the other restaurateurs we know. I want Tex. I'm seeing the Cup this year. Like they did a world tour last year, and I can't imagine it's going to be any less this year.
It was on the beach. It was at the Cafe Seville.
Yeah,
many other places. I don't know what they're going to put in this cup this year to top what they did last year. But I'm watching the news early this morning after I got out of the shower, and there's Sasha Barkov with the cup arriving at the Elbow Room at 7 a.m. I don't even think people peel themselves off the floor before 7 a.m. From the night before at the Elbow Room. As you say, I don't know that I would characterize it as a cesspool, but it might be difficult to accept. It does have that stench of an old bar that had a lot of beer. It's kind of like I used to love going to, one of the reasons I love the Olympic Auditorium and the Fifth Street Gym out in L.A. is that you could still smell the schwitz and see the bloodstains on the wall. And that's kind of what the Elbow Room reminds me of when it comes to that old school, let's not clean the place for a couple of months. Because we like the fact that the floor and the walls have absorbed all this alcohol that's been spilled and whatever else from guys that got too intoxicated and carried away. But, wow, talk about intoxicated. This whole area, South Florida, should just be on fire today. As although there's nobody here, it seems like, Lubie. Have you noticed that the streets are empty? Electrifying atmosphere at the Merritt Bank Center. Is it Center? Arena. Merritt
Bank Arena. I drive by almost daily now, which is almost like, that's the thing. And I gave people credit who were throwing it in, like, to think of where this franchise was 6 years ago.
Oh my God.
Because it is 6, because people forget they did turn it around and they were the President's Trophy. So it's not like they were nothing to champion. They did have those 2 years where they looked better. They won a series, and they hadn't won a series in 25 years. But as we all know, the lore, they did the trade and it changed everything, and they hired Maurice. But where they were 6 years ago, where literally your joke was, and it wasn't even a joke, it was reality. By mid-November, it was like, are they out? like,
that's mathematical elimination was the only thing that you were looking at. The over-under was like September. No, I mean, it would have been December, right? With a hockey team. And they usually were at that point. It was a train wreck, this franchise. Vinny Viola takes over as owner. He said he was committed to making things happen. This is a low-key owner, is he not? I mean, was he even on the ice last night? I don't know that I should recognize Vinny Viola from the fact that he's had a couple of very prominent racehorses and won, what? Did he win 2 Kentucky Derbies? Everything this guy touches turns to gold. It's pretty amazing. But great commitment to the Florida Panthers, brought in the right people. It was hard to depart with Dale Talon, who was widely respected in hockey, although he just wasn't able to get anything accomplished. And maybe he was counting on the wrong guys. They went through all those fugazi coaching changes where you didn't even know who the coach was. Yep. Somebody brought in like the equipment manager, and they made him coach for a while. And you're asking yourself, I mean, very much like we do with the Miami Marlins. What is the direction that you're trying to go in? And how many times can you kind of strip? The Dolphins have this same identity crisis going right now where they were going to tank, and then they were going to get all young guys and draft picks and stockpile draft picks, build from within. Next thing you know, they're signing every free agent and dumping all the guys that they picked up in the draft. And then they go out and get even more high-priced free agents. And you have to ask yourself, what is the identity right now? What is the direction? You really don't know. Why, Lubie? I mean, you might say because they have Chris Greer in a position.
Well, that's what I was going to say, and we talked about it, and we had a guy, and they started winning before we left radio, so he left, but a guy that despised Goldie and despised Dale Talon, and I don't even remember his name that outside of the fact that it was Mike the Goldie hater, and he would call almost every day to bitch about Dale Talon, which is so funny because Dale Talon was one of those guys like Torrey with the Islanders that built a dynasty. I mean, the Blackhawks, I think, won 3 in like 5 or 6 years. And Talon was a guy that got not some of the credit, all the credit for that. So they tried. They brought in Dale Talon, and he did an interesting job of putting this core together, the original core. He just couldn't do the Zito. He couldn't fill in around it. So, like, it was that was the only thing we did talk about with the Panthers is how long is Dale Talon going to have a job? A guy who was an icon in the sport.
One move he made, though, which I don't know if it was, by design or just luck, where, he ended up getting Bobrovsky as a goaltender, which it was clear that they needed somebody who could raise the level of play they were getting in the pipes there. And at the time, though, there was a lot of speculation about Panarin, the other Russian high-valued free agent who ended up going to the Rangers. And not that it would have been bad to acquire him, but I think they had to sort of choose, and I guess Panarin ended up choosing on his own not to come to Florida, and they ended up signing Bobrovsky. A lot of people thought, including us, that loomed as a large mistake because didn't it seem like he couldn't even see the Big E at the top of the eye chart at one point? That first season was bad. You talk about being skeptical about a waste. People were literally talking about this guy as a waste of $70 million. Now he looks like a bargain. Like if you were paying a guy $70 million. Now, was he brilliant throughout the entirety of the playoffs? No, but when you looked at the factors going into this Game 6, you had to believe that the Panthers were probably going to wrap this up. The uncertainty about who the Edmonton Oilers were going to put in the pipes. I don't know that Stuart Skinner, he made a couple of mistakes in his game when it was still a game. The Reinhardt goal was just a thing of beauty, the opening goal.
That was great.
That was tremendous. I mean, maybe he could have cut the angle off a little bit better than he did, but who was expecting Reinhardt to slip between 6 guys? There are only 5 on the ice there that are skating, but even I think he even deked the goalie out of position at his own end. And as he's falling down, being tackled by 2 guys with no penalty being called, boom. Pops that thing into the right side of the net. That was great. You thought, okay, first goal is very significant. And then he ended up with 4 goals in the game, although 2 of them were empty net and 1 went off his skate, which wasn't as if, he looked like Pavel Bure scoring on those goals. But still, he was that big of a factor. And, the skepticism that you had about Stuart Skinner after being yanked in favor of Pickard earlier in the series, and then they bring him back. Wasn't something that was awfully or overwhelmingly encouraging for Edmonton Oilers fans, and you could see. I mean, wow, how despondent were Draisaitl and McDavid after that game. That had to be gut wrenching. Just there's always two sides to the story.
Mhm.
And while we were experiencing the euphoria with the home team, the Edmonton Oilers and the entire nation of Canada, I think they even busted up the G7 thing. Just said, bleep this. We can't even win the Stanley Cup. What are we holding this meeting for? And that became the G6 as a certain presence there decided to depart. So maybe he could declare war on Iran. That seemed like
That's fun.
something that everybody would be encouraged by. Yeah, let's just go bomb the crap out of him and get involved.
Raging lunatic.
Way to go, Donnie. My God, well, what a night it was. But very deserving. It appeared, and like we always say, you just all these scouts that blow draft picks, and you're asking yourself, what were they looking at? I saw the same things that were going on. Now, watch these people play, and if you watch the two teams, it did appear that the Panthers had a clear-cut advantage, and they blow out the Edmonton Oilers in the decisive 6th game. So congratulations due to them. As you mentioned, Lubie, a bizarre story where you had how many years? What was it, 20 years of nothingness coming from there? The usual allusion is to crickets. And then it goes from that to, and those calls were by Doug Plagans, who was the radio play-by-play voice. The games are carried on 560 WQAM, which you would have to consider to be the lone sports station entity left in town. Now, we were at 940 wins. They're still carrying sports, but do they have any shows?
No.
Even that Brady Quinn show.
Yeah, it's just syndicated.
You know what? Just the other day, I was in a store, and somebody stopped me and said, "Hey, Defo, how you doing, man? I tell you what, I'm sorry you guys lost your job, but I can't stop listening to Brady Quinn."
Yeah, right.
That never happens.
Yeah,
Plagans, by the way, I've been in touch with him. He probably is going to join us on Bleacher Brothers maybe next week.
He's good. I've seen him do a lot of interviews. That's why I played his calls last year and this year. Actually, I like him. I think he does a really good job on the calls, and we know Goldie does a great job. But that's sort of the only sucky thing about being on TV is you get elbowed out during the playoffs, and Plagans gets to be. And every time they've won big, the national update shows will play his calls. Like he does a really good job, and I've seen him do interviews almost every day on national sites. So yeah, if you can get him, he's great, and he really has embraced South Florida culture, and he's embraced the Florida Panthers culture. He promotes him as well as anyone. So I'm glad. I wanted to get his calls out there because it was great to hear those after the game.
Yeah, save those for me. I think it may be even next week that we talk to Doug Plagans. We'll see. Been going back and forth trying to schedule something. So, and as you would imagine, he says, well, I'm not sure exactly what my schedule is going to be for the next couple of days. But one thing that he has, and I would think you're happy about this, even with the drama that would have been created by the possibility of a Game 7, I'm glad that the Panthers dodged that. And if I was part of the Panther organization, I would have been more than happy to skip that aspect of it also, as much as it might have been appealing to the fans, and certainly would have been far more encouraging for the people of Canada to think that they had one last shot to win the cup. But I thought the Panthers I was comfortable. I had predicted on another show that the final would be 4-1.
I said 4-2.
I'm any genius, but it did appear that they just had an edge over the Edmonton Oilers. And then think about this, too. I mean, you were a little critical of Tkachuk. I was just reading a story about his injuries.
No, I mean, I wasn't critical. Until we started talking about it and thinking, it's like, okay, maybe he's still hurt. And then he still put up numbers. If you look at his numbers for the series, they were pretty good. But yes, go on. He talked about his injuries last night, and it's freaking sickening.
It's amazing. And all that for an exhibition. I mean, this shows you where these guys are at when it comes to. I remember, I've alluded to this before, where I was interviewing Pat Riley, and I was kind of saying some unflattering things about the WNBA, and this stuck with me. Where Riley said, "Hey, listen, DeForest, it's all about the game." Now you hear that; it's a cliche.
Yes,
and you're saying to yourself, "Oh yeah, sure, it's all about the game," but. In the case of hockey players, it genuinely seems to be all about the game. I mean, here's a high-level talent playing for a franchise that is defending the Stanley Cup. they're having a very good season, and he's in this Four Nations thing, which I'm not a big fan of in-season exhibitions. Are you, Lubie? I really don't care for that. And this isn't even like talking about the NBA's Commissioner's Cup or whatever, the in-season tournament, and the WNBA has one now. You have sometimes the Olympics, which I can see that more so than this Four Nations thing that they contrived. And what was the purpose of that, Louis? The Four Nations tournament, just in the middle of a season, an NHL season, and you always hate this when it happens, or when a guy gets hurt doing something like that, some unofficial exhibition type of play. But he got hurt on a face-off in the Four Nations thing, and it turned out he had torn an abductor muscle right off the bone.
Off the bone.
Then had a hernia to complicate matters even further, and he's still out there.
He was playing.
This was a guy that played with a broken back in the Las Vegas series.
Yep.
What the hell, man? I mean, how tough are these MFs? It's just incredible to think what dedication they have to the cause, and you always see the togetherness of the team. And then one of the great ceremonies, of course, after they're just literally beating the crap out of each other, much like one of my favorite things that you see in boxing, after trash talking for 6 weeks leading up to a match and barking at each other the entire time, beating the daylights out of each other, body punches, head punches. At the end of 12 rounds, they embrace each other and say, you know what? A hell of a battle. And so that was great. We had Gary Bettman out there on the ice. He didn't even get booed.
Didn't get well. Everyone's just happy.
How courteous is the South Florida crowd? Wouldn't the first instinct to be to boo this schmuck?
They were just very happy. He said all the right things, so it was hard to boo him. He talked about, I feel like we just did this, and then winning one is great, but winning two is historic. You know, like he said all the things that it's like as a fan you can't really boo him.
No. Wasn't really. I mean, it would have been great if that happened, because in the middle of all this euphoria that's taking place in the arena, Bettman walks out on the ice and he just has that look of somebody that you would want to, go ahead and give him the Bronx cheer. Kind of, I don't know. I mean, what is it about Bettman that rubs people the wrong way?
A smarmy face, and I mean, for years he was horrendous as a commissioner. I don't know if he's good now, but he's learned to just stay out of it, and so he gets a little less attention.
Yeah, I mean, Roger Goodell, it's almost become cliche to boo Roger Goodell at the draft to open things up, and he's embraced it. I'm not sure that Bettman isn't slightly offended by the fact that nobody likes him. But whatever he did, I mean, he obviously came up with the right idea. Everybody thought he was out of his mind to start expanding into warm weather cities, southern cities. He thought, how is that going to work? I mean, if it's not working with these teams in Canada, a game that a few people really have great comprehension for, how's it going to work in South Florida with two teams in the state? Dallas, you saw the Atlanta franchise failed, but a lot of things don't make it in Atlanta. They're not necessarily the greatest sports city.
Winners. They have teams winning, they don't support them.
Nothing, yeah. It's incredible. So anyway, yeah, the celebration is on. Well-deserved. I don't know that I would doubt the Panthers coming right back and doing it again. I would think the Bennett signing would be somewhat critical.
What's good is they can start trying to do it now. They get a head start over other teams who try and extend them, and it feels like they're not going to waste time. They actually, and what's interesting about the team is the way Zito signed everyone. They actually do have room. Like, they're not over the cap. They have a nice chunk of money that they could give Bennett and Marchand. The interesting one will be Ekblad. I mean, he was not as prominent as those two guys being a defender, but he's been a part of this team. He's a leader. But to me, what would be interesting is he's an older guy and he's played his whole career here. So is he the kind of guy that would give a hometown discount at this point? How sought after would he be? But to me, you make it priority 1 and 2 to bring Bennett and Marchand back. I mean, the way that this team rallied together, those two guys were the two best players throughout the playoffs for this franchise, and a bevy of guys who played really well. And Zito's smart, like, as much as he's willing to go make moves, he also has been really smart at signing for Higgy signed, Reinhardt signed, Kachuk is signed, Barkov signed, like Bobrovsky has everyone has a contract. So Zito, he has to retool, but he's also been great at making sure the right guys stay in this franchise.
Yeah, so and that's still, like I said, something that will transpire over the next couple of weeks. We'll find out, and even if Sam Bennett does become a free agent, I think who we were talking to that said they had like 15 million in cap room to work with during the off season. So they weren't in a spot.
19. I think they have 19 million. They're almost in their 20
19,
million.
yeah, something like that. I mean, but they're not crushed against the salary cap.
No.
And I'm thinking in the NHL, you don't have a luxury tax situation, do you? Like in the NBA, where you can pay anybody any amount of money you would like, and it doesn't necessarily keep you from going ahead and trying to pursue whatever player it is that you're looking for. And then, of course, they have bird rules and this and that and all of these other exceptions. So we see that in the NFL, but I'm not sure exactly how pure the salary cap is in the NHL, where it's a hard cap, and there are not that many different maneuvers there where you can circumvent the cap and go ahead and keep players. But great accomplishment by the Florida Panthers. In a million years, you never would have thought it. Franchise appeared to be going nowhere. They now join the Miami Dolphins as having back-to-back championships, and that goes back 54 years now, or 53 years to 1972, 52 years to 73. The Miami Heat, back-to-back championships during the LeBron era, 2 out of 4 in the finals. And the Marlins have 2 champions. Amazing, really, because this is kind of a horse bleep sports town, or always was thought to be. So, but we do have our share of titles, and coming in hockey was about as improbable as it could possibly get. But tremendous celebration on. So where are you going to seek out the cup, Louis?
I wanted to put out feelers. I hope. Look, a bunch
You'll
of
kind of have to get a heads up when it's going to be there.
A bunch of restaurants that we deal with.
Cafe Seville, with Joey Esposito.
So like, it's like, come on, guys, don't let me know. Like this time around, and they celebrated for like 2 weeks to a month last year. I don't think it'd be anything different this year. So, yeah, I mean, the celebration was on. Larry Barkov was back on the ice at like 2 a.m. celebrating with workers of the arena. They were already at the elbow room this morning. Like, I'll give it credit. They work, but they know how to play, and they've earned it.
Yeah, no, great job all the way around. Very exciting stuff. They took the 3-0 lead. You thought there's no way they're going to cough this up.
Not this time.
And then you knew a buzzword when it comes to hockey, a smothering defensive effort all the way around. Edmonton had a lot of chances, and they came out as if they were on the proverbial mission from God, because they came out kind of hot, and they were able to stave that off, the Panthers. And then when Reinhart got that goal, you thought, wow, backbreaker for their early momentum. And they really stymied Edmonton from there, and then got the late goal at the – Edmonton was starting to make some noise towards the end of that first period also.
Yes, I was feeling like, you guys – because they after the first like 3 or 4 minutes, they controlled the first period, but they couldn't. It was back to not being able to get it in the net. And it was like, guys, you're at that place. You need to get that second goal. If you can get that second goal, then you put yourself in cruise control. And they were struggling to get the second goal. And Edmonton was starting to bring the rush again. And that's when Bob usually gives up some dumbass goal. And they were really good about clearing the rebounds. That was the one thing they were doing, where the puck would sit there. And I was like, oh, Jesus. And you would see Reinhart, or you would see Barkov. You'd see one of them could come over and get rid of it. And that was sort of what saved their ass and allowed them to get down there and get that second goal.
Yeah, they whiffed on a lot of opportunities. Yes, they certainly did. And weren't in the same kind of position that the Panthers have been throughout the postseason. So, and they do all this while being the road team in all 4 series. Looked like they were going to be bounced out of there by the Toronto Maple Leafs in the second round.
Yeah, they were down 0-2.
Down 0-2, and were they down 2-0 in the third game at home?
They were down 0-2, and they were down in that. Because people talk about how it was 0-2, and they were down in Game 3, and they had to fight back from being down in Game 3, and then they sort of took control of the series from that point.
Yeah, well, one of the remarkable drives to a championship, and Bettman's right. I know people say this, and it sounds cool. Oh, well, geez, the Stanley Cup is the toughest team championship to win. I don't think there's any doubt about it. When you look at what it takes, and now look, you have to win 16 games in the NBA, and it's not easy. Even Oklahoma City, if they wrap things up tomorrow night in Indiana with Halliburton questionable, And at least, even if he plays, you have to think that he's compromised, and that Oklahoma City is going to be well aware of that. They haven't been a great road team in the postseason, but even they had to survive a 7-game series against the Denver Nuggets along the way. Very difficult, not an easy thing to do. And Indiana had to take on its share of tough opponents. It was no easy ride, but man, when you look at what it takes to win the Stanley Cup, and also, as we say, the abstract nature of the game, where there's a huge luck factor involved. I would have to concede, and I've thought this forever, that the Stanley Cup, toughest team championship by far to win, and to win it 2 times in a row, a remarkable accomplishment for a franchise that was absolutely close to non-existent here in the country. The fans have
what the Marlins are is the Marlins had at least won 2 titles. Like they were actually worse off than the Marlins because they had never won. They had the one run. Literally, we talk about it. Their one run was losing. Like that's how little they've won. It was so magical. They got swept.
Exactly.
But like that's all they had in 30 years of existence. Like they were the worst franchise. Look, we were pissed when they stopped giving out 20 tickets a night. Like, because we got used to it, but there was a horrible business model.
Remember Yormark was like the president of the team, and he'd be outside the arena with a jacket full of tickets. I mean, he was costing the scalpers any chance they had, but it was probably the toughest ticket to scalp since the Marlins have gone into the tank. We thought was the second worst job in all of sports, right? Being a scalper at a Panthers game.
Yep.
So you had the president of the team out there just giving away stacks of tickets. They were papering the house to draw 8,000. It was insane. We were enjoying it, Lubie, because it was like, okay, I'm going to invite 19 of my friends. We got 20 tickets to a Panther game tonight. They're playing the Montreal Canadiens. It should have been a tough ticket to get, and you couldn't beg people to go into that place. It was just incredible. All right, standing by. We're going to do a little old school here, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. We have Tony Segreto from his new position. Look at Tony. Wow,
yes.
Tony. How are you, my friend?
Yes, indeed. I am fine and dandy.
What was your situation now in Vermont? They get television reception up there where you're at, right?
Well, I have to get my moose, the antlers, just right. And maybe, just maybe you get a television reception. But I arrived last night.
Oh, yeah? It's just got there? Oh, nice. This is the first thing you're doing after you dusted yourself off from the ride?
Yeah. What do you expect?
That's awesome.
What do you expect?
You're the best.
I would expect no less of you, a dedicated sports fan and man who's been involved in sports coverage down here. All right, so you were around. You were a young Tony Segreto, I guess, I'm going to say 20 years old maybe when the Dolphins went to that first of 3 Super Bowls. Were you involved in the media already? Yes, you were, right? Didn't you start with like 10?
Yeah. I was left on the doorstep. Chuck Zink. Skipper Chuck left me on the doorstep.
Skipper Chuck. Wow. You went straight from the Skipper Chuck show to covering the Dolphins Super Bowl runs. Any comparisons that you see, Tony, some 50 odd years later?
No, I think that they both won the hearts of the city. That's number one. That to me, the Dolphins were struggling. They didn't have a following, and then all of a sudden they got to their first Super Bowl and then they lost it. But they set up their following already. This time, the Panthers, they tried. And like you said, Zito was out giving tickets away. But the Panthers just proved to me that anything can be done at any time.
Yeah.
Just put your mind to it and work hard.
Look, they've shown you for us that are surrounded by a lot of losing in South Florida the last few years, that if you can find the right head man or woman, because Kim Ng, I feel like if she had been given a real chance with the Marlins, could have done some things, and they sort of gotten their way as they always do. They overthought it. that person can guide you to where you want to go. Look, it's what the Dolphins, Defo brought it up, it's what the Dolphins keep trying to do. But if you have the wrong head person, it doesn't matter how much money you're willing to spend or what strategy you take. If you have the wrong person, you're the wrong person. And you could see from the beginning what Bill Z, like when in the middle of a season or early part of the season, he's like, all right, we're getting rid of the best player on the team. And he didn't bat an eye. Like, those are the kind of stones you sort of need to guide a champion. And literally every move, like they went through the list of the guys Reinhardt he brought in, Verhage he brought in, Bennett he brought, like all the guys he brought in are the guys that shined in this series. And it's such a microcosm or the epitome of like what we've seen. You saw with the Dolphins early on, where they just built these teams that people couldn't contend with. I mean, they went to 5 Super Bowls in like a decade, like what the Dolphins did early on. And that was all personnel and Shula's coaching. And then you go to Pat Riley and he was building the personnel and the coaching, where they've gone to 7 finals and won 3 in a span of 20 years. Like, Zito's in that pantheon right now, and that's something that the rest of the South Florida sports world has tried to do, but at least it shows you can. Like, for all of us that were like, yeah, the Panthers will never be, like, it's not they really were a franchise we forgot existed. Like, we would forget. It's what we're doing with the Marlins now. I forget the Marlins are playing baseball. Like, to go from that to this is possible, and that's something both Zito and the Panthers have shown.
The Panthers, I remember Joe Thomas from the Dolphins, and he changed the way the Dolphins approached things, and they went to the Super Bowl. The Panthers, just, God love them. The celebration, Kachuk was, to me, he was everything we could ask of him last night. They just proved that they can win it, and when they want to turn it on, they can turn it on.
They came at them in such waves, though. I mean, all the talk is about McDavid and Draisaitl, certainly deserving of whatever recognition they get. Both great players, but when you have 2 guys and you're trying to battle 10, it's not an easy thing to do. All right, we're going to come back with Old School. It's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse. Ed Garcia is scheduled to join us as well. Tony's in Vermont. I'm Jeff DeForest. That's Mike Lubitz, and we are in Panther celebration mode here in South Florida, and we'll be back with more on this edition of the program in a moment. Now that it's 8:40.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently,
What we're gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Texas Roadhouse.
Tell me, doctor.
All right, welcome back to the show. Good to have you guys with us. We're Old School with Tony Segreto, as we are every Wednesday. Tony up there in Vermont. We forgot to ask because it's a blast furnace here. Now the town is all heated up over this championship, and there are going to be wild celebrations all over the place. Lubie's going to try and track a couple of them down. Last year we had, I think it was bouillabaisse being served out of the Stanley Cup at Heritage Restaurant, owned by our good friend Reno Cerbone, who is the brother-in-law of Roberto Luongo, who came out and, wow, second year in a row, that we had Roberto banging the drum in a Stanley Cup clinching game to get the crowd fired up. And I don't know that John Good Vibes Bonham of Led Zeppelin had anything on the Wongo. He did the right thing. He hammered that thing. I think he was even doing triplets like Bonham used to do that he became famous for. So that was great. And then we saw the Cup also at our good friend Joey Esposito's place, Oakland Park Boulevard, the Cafe Seville, known for its paella, which many people feel is the best in the city. And I mean, I've had paella other places, and I would have to agree that it's the best that I've had. And of course, so many other great things there that I don't know. Would it be okay to serve like a mahi franchise out of the Cup? I guess paella was more appropriate, but a lot of celebrations going on all over town. It was actually, I think I saw this yesterday online somewhere that this was not necessarily a favorable ratings winner on TV. That there wasn't that much interest in it as compared to maybe even other Stanley Cup Finals, and that's surprising because we've now seen. You would think the Florida Panthers would have become much more of a national favorite as they've been in the Stanley Cup Finals 3 years in a row. Tony,
I think hockey, as in general, just doesn't do well on TV. Plain and simple.
I think they do a better job of it now, though, than they ever have in the past. I really
do because the numbers are better. The numbers of people are watching, and the numbers of households you can get it in. But to me, football is a made-for-TV sport.
Yes.
Bar none. But hockey, like baseball, you got to go to the game. Plain and simple. You can watch it, from a distance and enjoy it if you're a fan. But if you're a casual viewer, you're not going to watch it. Secondly, Lubie, you would think that you guys have so much pull wherever you go, no matter where you go.
You're going to work on it.
You would think that the Stanley Cup would go there.
No, we're going to work on it. We're definitely going to see what we can do. We missed it last year, but I hope we don't miss it again this year.
Well, you can go as an individual, but
as a show,
have it on the show.
I don't know.
Oh, you think we could hoist it right here from the computer? And
no, go.
We might be able to pull something off. I don't know. Could we get Stanley Cup?
Go to Tropical Park. Go to wherever you want to go, but just go there and do the show and hoist. You go where the cup goes. If the cup goes to so and so, say to them, can you go there at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning or whenever you're going, and then do the show.
There you go.
So you're thinking that we should have been on the upper deck at the Elbow Room today. Parking would have been a problem, I think.
You got to go to the Elbow Room. Lubie, I take offense to what you said, that the Elbow Room is a cesspool.
Maybe that was a little strong.
It's a little strong.
It's an iconic place, yes.
It's a fantastic place and idea. It's not an actual great place to be in. It's literally mostly outside, and it has a stench of urine. Like it's not
that's your wife in your ear.
No, my wife's never.
No, it has the same smell as that Jamaica OTB booth that I often reference. Where you walk in there and you're going, "What the hell am I doing here?" I understand. It's a place. Our man Andy Cagnetta should give it the iconic restaurant.
We should do an iconic eatery thing. That's fine. I respect it for the fact that it's endured, and it is a place that the Panthers. There's a reason that
commemorated in movies.
It's great. The Elbow Room. I'm glad it's still there. I'm not telling anyone to get rid of it. Literally, I've lived here my entire life. I've spent a lot of time on that beach. That's literally where I went. That's the beach I went to all through high school, college, most of my adult life. I've spent like 10 minutes in that bar because every time I've tried to go in, I'm like, no, I'm good. And I'm not one with weak sensibilities.
There was an iconic bar that's no longer there now. The Tobacco Road.
Tobacco Road was great. Great blues bar.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But it was like that. You walked in, you smelled the
little
beer.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the Fifth Street Gym, I guess, one of the places that you would remember. Kind of, I don't know. Did it have that same stench of urine as you were coming up the stairs?
A different kind of stench.
It was like sweat.
I mean, at the Fifth Street Gym, guys are just turning, pee.
Half of them were peeing in their pants because they'd have to spar with Ali. But it was one of the first places I hit. My inclination is to dodge the elbow room. I'm with Lubie on that. I don't think it's a cesspool. I wouldn't describe it quite in that fashion. But if I was,
it's iconic.
It is iconic, and I'm glad it's there, but it's gross at the same time. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I'm the first to admit that it's really gross.
Look, I love the Orange Bowl. I thought the Orange Bowl was iconic, but all those that are like, oh, we need the Orange Bowl. It's like, did you go there the last 20 years? I'm sorry.
And now people are complaining that they don't have the Orange Bowl.
Well, that's what I'm saying. People bitch about it. I'm like, yeah, you hadn't been. I went near the end. FSU played them, and I had gone as a child, and it had the aura. And I remember going as a college student, going, what the hell? Like,
remember they had the urinals where like a big trough.
Yeah. Big trough. Big.
It looked like you were in a prison bathroom, didn't it?
There's nothing wrong with appreciating history, but it's okay to make it less gross.
Did you feel safe on the ramps there at the Orange Bowl?
No, they shook the whole thing.
Never mind the no blocky thing. I mean, even if you had a parking pass for the media lot, you still needed a machete to get you into the stadium because the grass was like 6 feet high. It looked like the rough at the U.S. Open. Speaking of which, I'm going to be talking to today, and this is old school stuff. I don't know if you remember this, but I couldn't help but think of this parallel when I was watching this J.J. Spaun win the U.S. Open. Now, being a journeyman in golf today is not the same as it was 35 years ago when our good friend, Hollywood's own Mike Donald, he had one tournament win. I think it came in 1989 in like the Anheuser-Busch Classic, which was a tournament of very little distinction. And he's in there on 18, and Hale Irwin had to make like a 50-something foot putt to force a playoff. Back then, they went 18 holes. The next day, we saw that with Tiger Woods and Rocco Mediate. They later, I guess, changed the format there, and I think they play a 2-hole aggregate score now if there were people in a dead heat. And it looked like there were going to be 6 or 7 guys even in a dead heat in this year's tournament. But going to be talking to Mike Donald, who not every Cinderella story ends up with, as the great line in Cinderella Man from the Max Baer character was people die in fairy tales too. And so that they don't always end up that way, but we tend to forget about people that finish second. It's unfortunate, Tony. And that's been true throughout the history of sports where,
100%.
I mean, look, the Buffalo Bills are living and existing in infamy because they lost 4 years in a row. And you're thinking, they got there 4 years in a row. That's pretty incredible.
It's really incredible. But you think of them as losers.
Exactly. Yeah, Minnesota, the same thing with Fran Tarkenton.
Yep.
Never won. Chuck Knox, I guess, was the coach there. And you always have them categorized as losers. So I don't know that it would have been any disgrace if the Panthers had lost 2 out of 3 finals. But certainly the perception of the franchise and Bill Zito and all these people that were paying all kinds of, accolades to might have changed a little bit.
I do nothing but revere the Panthers for what they've done. Amen. That's it.
Yeah.
Almost impossible. What were your thoughts when the franchise? We've talked about this before, but I can still envision myself in a few situations where the concept was being introduced. They had that exhibition game with Gretzky, who, by the way, come on, Wayne. I know you played for the Edmonton Oilers. I understand.
It was bad, right? Like, I never watched, but even Visserman was like, even Gretzky can't make an excuse now.
What the hell was that? I mean, they're down like 7-0, and Gretzky's, well, you know what? If they can get a goal here.
Yeah.
Like, Wayne, it's over. It's over, Johnny. It's Rambo. It's over.
Yes.
TNT, though, did a great job. I mean, speaking of your television coverage, which, of course, is an area of your expertise, Tony, but I think they made hockey far more viewable on TV. And
I do too. I do too. But the fans, you're not going to. you're not going to get the fans there. Plain and simple.
Maybe I don't know. Wouldn't you have wanted to be part of that crowd last night?
Oh
Part of
yeah,
and I'm not big on. I
would
like going
rather
to games, but yeah,
I
I
would
mean,
rather have been part of that crowd than watching on television.
gave you a little bit of a feeling of it, though. I mean, they brought the game closer to you, and the analysis
They're getting
was sharp.
better.
Yeah,
They tried to, they got the puck, the puck analyzer or something like that to go with it, and they slow-moed the goals. But the game is so fast. You don't realize how fast it is until you go. And you speaking about athletes, they're athletes. They're tough. They're fast. They can play golf. There's nothing they can't do.
what's lost, I guess, is that they're doing this on skates.
Oh yeah,
It's incredible when you think about it.
it's
It
really,
really is.
really. You have to be a good skater before anything else. You can learn to be tough. You can learn to be agile. You can learn to be stick saves and agile with the stick. But boy, oh boy, to stand up on to stand up on a blade, forget it.
As a Jew, I've never been any good at balance sports. The
I've
few
tried
times I
that.
attempted ice skating, it was a total failure. Broke my wrist one time with a fall, and then decided it wasn't necessarily for me. Tried it again a few times. Very shaky.
I would have thought the guy from Syracuse, or who went to Syracuse, you would learn how to skate.
Well, you were skating all the time because there was always 4 feet of snow on the ground. and that hidden ice. But no, and it took a while to learn how to navigate your way around because naturally you're going there with ill-equipped to deal with it because you're just not anticipating that. But yeah, I think they had a minor league hockey club there that was, I believe, a couple of guys that became fairly prominent in the media might have even been calling the minor league hockey games professionally while they were at the Q's. I don't think Costas was one of them, but I'm pretty sure he had like a professional job calling either minor league baseball or something while he was there. No, I could never skate. And actually, hockey was popular when I was growing up in Long Island. A lot of kids that I was friendly with.
The Rangers and the Bruins were epic.
And there were frozen lakes. I mean, that people played on. Now you probably never experienced that here in Florida.
No. But in Vermont, every frozen lake has a goal. Every frozen lake has a goal, and there's always kids on the ice skating from 3 years old to 15, 16 years old with a stick in their hand.
Speaking of which, I mean, what is the weather there right now? Because we're a little bit. If you tell me it's like 62 degrees and clear skies with those pillowy looking white clouds,
it's not 62.
We're not going to be happy with you, Tony.
It's 65.
Oh, Jesus.
65.
and there are the white clouds.
Yeah, those little puffy clouds are.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah, just you picture some cow being milked there and some guy churning butter. Awesome. All right, so now that we have the championship, what are you going to turn your attention to from a sporting standpoint? Are you like Lubie is obsessed with NBA offseason stuff? I don't know that I get as deeply into that as other people do because I kind of wait and see.
Has anybody even thought of the NBA playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to watch the game tomorrow night.
It's been better than it should have been. I mean, it's been a decent series actually.
But with the Panthers in it, the maybe because it's Florida and it's us, but
if you were living in Kansas City, how interested in the hockey series would you have been? Maybe more interest, obviously, with sort of Western and Midwestern teams in the NBA. The NBA series has delivered a little bit, though. People thought it was going to be just a dull, boring, obvious
I would say
ride
this.
from OKC.
In terms of television coverage,
yeah,
the NBA may be lagging as the last team. I mean, the last
I mean, in terms of viewership?
Yeah.
No, this isn't, I don't think, I would imagine ratings are down because of the fact that you don't have any big name teams.
Well, you don't have the market. I mean, you don't have the original 6 or whatever.
Right. You get LA or New York in there or Boston, and you immediately have a spike just from those cities alone, and the fact that there's national interest.
Oklahoma City. Yeah.
Have you been there, Tony? You ever been to Oklahoma City?
Yes.
And what do you think of it?
Not much. Well, I like every city I've been to because they all have something to offer.
Yeah.
But in terms of big cities who can offer the most, they're just they have what they have. They do it well, and they expand on it. But that's it. It's a good city for what it is. Amen.
I forget who it was who had the line about when they have the parade there, it is only going to encompass one block. It's going to look a lot like that military parade did that your boy Donnie threw.
We have a 4th of July parade here in Mount Holly, and it goes literally. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah,
1.5 blocks.
How many people attend? Is it going to look like the stands at the birthday celebration?
The whole town comes out. So the town, we got about maybe 1,000 people out there.
Oh, jeez.
So, but they're spread out over the block. So it's that's the way it is. But that's what makes it good. And so if you go there and you want to get in, I went in. I was asked to go 4th of July last year or something.
You're not the marshal. I would think you're being a celebrity. How are you not the parade marshal? You were. Oh, okay. And they recognize your accomplishments there in this town in Vermont you're in? No, they don't care. What about the Red Sox? I mean, are they getting any attention?
Oh my
God. Was
God.
there a buzz about this Rafael Devers trade going to San Francisco? They dumped a guy who's got a pretty effective.
I haven't been here long enough. But the Red Sox rule. I mean, the Red Sox. I was wearing my Yankee hat yesterday.
That's a mistake.
Yeah, a big time mistake.
Did you get served at the restaurant you were in, or no?
Yes.
Did they ask you to take the hat off? That would be the question.
No, they didn't.
You have some serious chutzpah to wear a Yankee
walk around in
New England area. You get the heck out of here.
I represent the Defo and Lubie show fine and dandy.
Nice.
I'm not sure we want you wearing a Yankee hat.
I give him
surprise you there. I'm surprised your house didn't get egged after that. All right, Tony, we got to run. Congratulations to the Panthers. Thanks a lot, Tony. Enjoy your day in Vermont. We're going to be.
Congratulations to your son, by the way, who just got engaged. Congratulations.
Yes,
oh yeah. How was the party?
It was great. It was fantastic. It was literally, it went off without a hitch. My son did a fantastic job of planning it, and she was surprised.
I love it.
Oh, so she doesn't watch the show because I gave it away.
No, she doesn't watch the show.
No, she doesn't.
Obviously, then a woman of good taste. She's marrying your son.
We love you, Tony.
That accounts for a lot of her credibility. Yeah. All right, Tony, we love you, man, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us here from Vermont, Tony Segreto, ladies and gentlemen, with a little old school. And congratulations again to the Florida Panthers.
Yes.
I would imagine this elbow room thing will be going on for quite some time. It seemed like was that an all-day affair last year?
Yes.
Unfortunately, it was some serious weather ugliness when they held the eventual parade.
Yeah, I would love to attend this year. I'm hoping the weather holds up because the staying in the rain is the one thing I'm not a big fan of.
So, if I put my mind to it, I could walk there.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be a little bit of a schlep, and then, of course, you would have to walk back. But
the walking back's the thing that's annoying.
But last year was a disaster when the weather was incredibly bad. Everybody, and they were trying to cover it on all the local TV stations, and it was just a disaster from that standpoint. But I don't know that you could rain on the parade of a team that's won 2 straight Stanley Cups here in South Florida, of all places. So congratulations to the Florida Panthers. I believe we will be talking to Doug Plagans possibly next week on our conversation show today, coming up at 10 o'clock. We'll talk to Mike Donald about his experience. And when I talked to Mike on the phone, he says, "Can you believe it? It was 35 bleeping years ago that this happened." And to me, it seems like yesterday. And I shipped the video to a friend of mine to try and pop in on the show of Hale Irwin making that putt. And I still get disgusted. I had to throw up watching Hale Irwin in those red Sanibel slacks running around a green and thinking, you talk about a crossroads. This was Larry Merchant time, two fighters at a crossroads. Mike, who had the one tournament win, would have had a 10-year exemption on the PGA Tour, which meant a lot, seeing as he wouldn't have to qualify or look for sponsor invitations to tournaments for the next 10 years after that, up until 2000. And instead, he ended up playing, I think, he might have even been caddying on the Mexican Tour shortly after that. So the two roads were widely divergent. And also joining us, and this guy's always a lot of fun to talk to. And I remember him from being a member of the original Miami Heat, Scott Hastings, who is involved in Denver Nuggets broadcasts and also is a big-time sports talk guy in Denver. They still do sports talk in Denver, Lubie.
Oh, wow. Look at them.
They have like 3-man shows on radio. I mean, they actually give a crap. Unbelievable. And still sustain sports talk radio there. So Scott's a part of that. And he'll join us, talk about the NBA Finals and all of the potential off-season stuff, including how interesting to you is it, Lubie, the whole Kevin Durant saga? Because I don't seem to, give it as much consideration as others would. Because when we were talking to Scoop Skolnick yesterday, Durant's become, a very good jump shooter at 37. Is he a guy? I mean, look, you would have thought that with Devin Booker and whatever they put around him in Phoenix, it might have worked. It didn't work when they had him with Kyrie and James Harden in Brooklyn. So, I mean, is this necessarily a destination championship if the Heat somehow acquired Kevin Durant, even with Bam and Tyler Hero to surround him?
The reason I want it is because this team, and people are like, they're not close. They're not close. My thing is, I don't know where they are because I think their players are miscast. And there's something to be said for finding the right guy to put in the right role to allow the others to fall into their role. And that, to me, is what Kevin Durant would do. It would allow Hero to be more of the second scorer, which is where I think he'd be comfortable, and allow Bam to be the third guy, which is really what I think he is. And then if you could keep aware, they would be really interesting in an East that's wide open. The last two destinations he's gone to, they let him be too involved in things, and he was just surrounded by guys who are very similar to him, guys that were a little bit older, guys that were purely scorers, especially at this point in their career. Like, that's not Bam. And Hero's become a much better facilitator than a lot of them. I mean, Harden was a facilitator younger in his younger age, but his Nets time, look, if the Harden that was on the Clippers was on the Nets, they may have worked better. Like, Harden was in a weird place at that point, and then Kyrie never played. I mean, Kyrie was hurt the whole time, and in his head case years. So,
well, and he had the COVID thing and all of that.
So I don't know, but again, remember, people forget, like, Durant had half of a shoe over the 3-point line, or they beat the Bucks, who were the eventual champions.
Right.
So things went better than people give credit. And then the Suns anyone who knows basketball knew the Suns thing was a disaster from the beginning, and Durant did put it together. If you look at his numbers, he's what the Heat need. The Heat need a guy that can just go and score. They have guys that can do all the other things, and they've shown they can create bench guys out of thin air. I mean, everyone they created has gone on to do nothing everywhere else. They were key cogs for teams that went to multiple finals. So that's why I want Durant. However, I agree with you in the sense that he's not what he was in his 20s. So the Suns trying to get the farm for him, I think, would be dumb. Like, I wouldn't get rid of young guys that are good at this point for Kevin Durant. So, I mean, we'll see.
If he was the Suns, why would you want to bring him back when he clearly doesn't want to be there?
No, he's going to get traded. It's just there's not a market there. Like, the Spurs and the Rockets are being smart. They have really good young teams that mirror what the Thunder did. I don't know if any of the guys are going to become SGA, but they have more talent than the Thunder. They don't have just 2 or 3 guys. Like, the Spurs and the Thunder, the Spurs and the Rockets have a lot of young talent, and it's like, if you go and get a veteran star, does he make you better or does he mess things up? So, like, the word is they're not throwing pieces at the Suns like they would like. So they're trying to make it look like more teams are involved than reality is. So if you're the Heat, why would you negotiate against yourself?
I'm with you, man. All right, Lubie, a lot of fun today. Congratulations, Florida Panthers. Thanks to Tony for joining us. Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, of course, always a great place to visit. Tremendous value considering. Man, I went yesterday. I hadn't done this for a while. I was going to cook some chicken breasts. Right, so I'm in Publix. Did the price of chicken skyrocket?
Oh,
in
yeah.
the last year?
100%.
I mean, never mind eggs. What came first, the chicken or the eggs in terms of price?
Eggs first, but the chicken has definitely gone up.
But I used to buy like a package and it would be $6-7. They were like $12, $13 same size. Incredible. Well, when did that happen?
It's going
I love it. Your cat
honor of the Panthers.
Honor of the cats. Did you bring the cat in on purpose? Or
she came on her own, but I'm not going to push her away as the cats are.
No, you should hold her up here for the crowd.
Cats should have their day.
There you go. All right, enjoy the celebrations, everybody. Hope you get a chance to rub up against the cup sometime during the summertime. And thanks so much for being with us. We'll do it again tomorrow, and we'll see you then. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, Tony Segreto, I'm Jeff DeFore. See you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
I thought you were letting the cat punch the button.
No.
It's, and don't forget, 10 o'clock today, Mike Donald, Scott Hastings.
Nice.
It's 9:09.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my